Hi, everybody. Good to see you guys. Kind of see you, sort of see you. I wish I could see you in person, but we are starting this week with a little bit of a review, but we're going to step it up a little bit as we're going through this. Some more evaluating algebraic expressions. So I actually think, and I said this in the online notes on this, which are in topic 5 still, so you can look at those. It'll say week of 413. I actually think you guys will like this better. We did a touch of it last week. I think you'll like it better because you actually get to evaluate the whole expression and come to an answer. Because we're going to be giving some variables, information on variables. Remember, a variable is a letter. I'll be telling you what the value of that letter is to help us out. So when we are evaluating, you have to know what the value of that letter is. So in number 1, and I'm going to do a bunch of these, so rest assured you'll be fine for the online assignment, which, by the way, I'm lessening a little bit this week. I'm going to try 10 questions. Some feedback from some students was that to do both A and B, if you decided to do both A and B, it was a lot when it was 15 to 20 questions. So we're going to try 10 this week and kind of see how that goes for you. There will be a B form, just like last week, for 2 assignments this week. So, but again, that's optional. So don't do the challenge B form if this is a little too much for you. Stick with the A form, okay? All right, so let's look at number 1. It says evaluate 14A when A equals 2. Here's where you just have to be careful, because we can't just plug the 2 in there and then call that 142. Remember, and I messaged a lot of you as you were making some errors on the homework. I tried to shoot you off messages really quick to say, hey, just so that you know, going down the road, when a number, a coefficient, is next to a letter, a variable, this means to multiply. But remember, we're not using that x anymore with algebra. In fact, probably going forward, you're not going to be using that x much at all to mean multiplication. That x will get confused. The multiplication x will get confused for a letter x. And we want to try to stay away from that with algebra. That will make it too confusing for you. So, and I know that's hard to break out of that habit because you're used to writing the x for multiplication. But we are going to plug the 2 in there. But remember that means multiplication. So I'll put it over here so you guys can see. So this becomes 14. I'm going to use parentheses to separate that so that it doesn't look like 142. We have to multiply that. So again, it's 14 times whatever A is. The value of A is 2. We're going to plug that 2 in and multiply. Certainly, if you have to do that over to the side, show your work over to the side, we should come up with 28. 14 times 2 is 28. So when we evaluate 14A and we know what that equals, we can come to an answer of 28. Okay, again, we had a little bit of these. We're just going to be diving deeper today. All right. Another fairly easy one, evaluate 15 plus B when B is equal to 11. So when I say, someone asked me, Mrs. B, what do you mean when you say when B equals? And that just means that I'm telling you what the value of the letter is. Now you can plug it in. That's all. So don't worry about the sound of that. That's all it means, okay? We're going to plug in the 11, and this is addition. So I'm going to keep my 15. Nothing's changing there. But I am now adding B, which is 11. And when I add that up, I get my 6 and my 2 for a value of 26 when I evaluate that expression. All right. Now, what happens if I have an A and a B or an X and a Y and I don't know what to do there? You're going to expect to see that I will give you the values of both of those variables. So you can just plug them in. A minus B. Just make sure you plug them in the order that they tell you. So if A is first, we need to make sure that the 14 is first. So A is 14 minus B, and my value for B is an 8. Then when I subtract that, we should get 6. Check it backward. You'll get that 14 back. 6 plus 8 is 14. A little bit of division. Now remember, we're not using the division sign with the 2 dots, okay, like you're used to. We are moving away from that, and we're going to use it as a fraction bar. So just like you see here, this is M divided by N. That is how we would read that. they are telling us that m is 81, and they're telling us that 9 equals n. So we're going to plug those in the correct spots. We're just slotting these in. M over n, my m is 81, my n is 9, and remember this means division. So what is 81 divided by 9? Or, like we did last week, which I know you loved the word phrases. I know a lot of people really disliked those. We could say this as 81 split equally between 9 groups. You could say it as 81 divided by 9. You could also say the quotient of 81 and 9. Okay, so there's several ways. I think I'm probably missing a way, but there's several ways to say division there. Okay, and when we divide that out, we get an answer of 9. The fifth one, evaluate 3m plus 2n. They're telling us that m is 5. Now this one's a little trickier because we have coefficients and variables. We have to plug in both. But remember, back to number 1, what does it mean when a coefficient is next to a letter? We multiply, right? So I'm multiplying and then adding and then multiplying those two numbers. And we can think about PEMDAS here because that is really what comes into play. We're going to want to deal with the multiplication first and then this addition. I probably should have put that on the board for you guys. I apologize. PEMDAS comes into play for sure with these. All right, so for 3m, it's telling me that m is a value of 5. I'm going to plug that in. Now remember that's multiplication. So I'm taking the 3, plugging in the m, it's multiplication. Use parentheses so it does not look like a 35. You can goof on your answer if you haven't put it in parentheses. Now remember we're adding, but we're adding 2n. I'm going to keep the 2, but I got to plug in the 3 right next to it, not 23. It's going to be 2 parentheses 3. Again, it has to show multiplication because that's what the original expression is showing us. Now I'm going to show, showing the steps is really important. I'm going to show the steps here. Now at home when you're doing these, because they are the online homeworks, there's not a space to sometimes show all this. So just scratch paper is fine. Wherever your workspace is, just have some scratch paper there because you may need to do some calculating. And these are going to get harder today. Not tremendously difficult, but they're getting a little bit harder where you're going to want to have scrap paper nearby. 5 times 3. Look at, I goofed. I still make mistakes, you guys, even at home. 5 times 3 is 15. And 3 times 2 is 6. Now PEMDAS says that we can then add. We did our multiplication first, and now we're going to do our adding. 15 plus 6. My final answer of that, after evaluating that expression, comes to 21. And again, we can figure these all out because they've given us the variables, what the variables equal, the values of the variables. All right, sit tight, and just for a second, I'm going to clear the board, and we're going to do some more. All right, guys, we are back for numbers 6 through 10. I'm going to keep going, gradually getting a little more into the topic. All right, we're taking a look at evaluating 8y minus 2w. Now, here's your givens, okay? When y equals 10, so we're going to plug that in, and w equals 4. Here we go again with that side by side, right? Coefficients are next to a letter, which means we're doing multiplication. Don't use the x, right? No x sign for multiplication. So we're going to plug those in. I'm going to take the 8. I'm going to plug in the 10 for y and show that in parentheses for multiplication. And we are minusing the 2w. Minusing 2, and my value for w is a 4. All right, I'm going to move that PEMDAS just for a moment. I'll move it to this side so that we can pay attention to the order of that. Now we can go ahead and do the multiplication to simplify this down and then come to an answer. So 8 times 10, I'll just use an arrow for what this changes to since I don't have a lot of space over here. And then 4 times 2 is 8. So we're doing 80 minus 8, which gives us a total of 72. I'll move to this side so you can see that 72 for that one. On number 7, Very similar, except we have an addition sign. Again, PEMDAS, the reason we're taking care of multiplication first is because the M in PEMDAS comes before the S for subtraction. Again, here, multiplication is going to come before the A for addition. Okay, and here, same kind of thing. And then we'll get into some division. All right, we're going to take the X and we're plugging in the number 4. So this will be 4 times 4. And for Y, we're plugging in a 2. So this is going to be 8 times 2. So I'm going to rewrite that as multiplication. Again, 4 times X, which is a value of 4. They told us that. Whoop, messy board. All right. And then we have 8 times 2 because Y is 2. If I can simplify that, so I'll just use an arrow. 4 times 4 is 16. And we're minusing 8 times 2, which is 16. For a total of 0. 16 minus 16. Okay. Number 8. 16p minus 4d. We have a 2 going in for p. So 16 times 2 minus 4 times d. And they've given us a value of 1 for d. So this will be 4 times 1. Some of you are probably saying, already you know that that's 4. 4 times 1 is 4. Could I just write it that way? You can. Always good to write it out, though, in case you make a mistake. So 16 times 2, 16 plus 16, in other words, 32. And then minus 4 times 1 is 4. We get an answer of 28 for that one. Going on to division. We know that this fraction bar indicates division. Now there's 2 things going on here. We have, just like up above, but in a different format. We have multiplication because a number is next to a letter. So we'll plug that in and solve. And then we're dividing by 4. Okay, remember that multiplication for PEMDAS comes before division. So let's make sure we have that up here again. Or some of you guys I know like to say GEMDAS grouping. That's fine. Doesn't matter. All right, we're going to plug in, it's telling us that K is 3, so we're going to plug in that 3 here, and we're going to be multiplying. So make sure you use those parentheses. So this becomes 8 times 3, and I've got the 4. Now, again, PEMDAS, multiplication first, then your division. 8 times 3 is 24, and divided by 4. Now we can solve this. Read it. You're going to read it as 24 divided by 4. Or 24 split into 4 equal groups. If you've got 24 cookies and you've got 4 kids, how much will each kid get? 24 divided by 4? 6 for each child. Just made chocolate chip ones last night. I swear my boys gobble them up and then I don't get any. Another division one at the bottom. The difference here is that we have 2 variables, but it's okay. All we have to do is put the numbers in. So this is going to be 10 times m. M is 12, divided by y, and y, they tell us, is 5. So we're just going to plug that in, you guys. Take a breath. I'm sure sitting at home you're getting better and better at this and feeling more confident. The videos, most people are saying, like I said, they definitely seem to help, and you can watch them 1,000 times over, however many times you need. All right, so we've got 10 times 12. I'm just checking my work. Always make sure they get in the right spots. 12 times 10. Now remember the little shortcut if you aren't, or if you're a little rusty on multiplication. Cover up the 0. What's 12 times 1? Now tack on that extra 0. So again, if you're not a fan of multiplication, I know some of you are not, a little shortcut there, divided by 5. Now some of you who are not fans of division are going to go, oh, Mrs. V, I don't want to have to divide that out. But it's not so bad. And if you have to go over to the side, that's all right. 5 into 12. Can't go into 1, right? But it can go into 12 twice, which is 10. I've got 2 left. Bring down that 0. 5 into 20 is 4. So not so bad. I promise I won't give you any decimals or anything like that on this homework, so don't worry about that. They will come out evenly. 24 for that one. All right, we're going to do one more set, and this is where we're going to get into a little bit more with exponents. We are going to do a couple that have a square squared in them. Okay, so stick with me. I'll clear the board and I'll be right back. All right, everybody, the last round. And as you can see, again, it's getting a step harder. But we got this. You got this. It's okay. I promise. All right, number 11. Same thing, evaluating. They're giving us a value for the variable g as 4. We are going to put that 4 in. Now, where we get scared are with those exponents, I know. I'm going to show you how to set this up because it's really important that where that g is where you put the 4. Now, that little 2 is technically with the 4. So somehow we have to show a separation there. Now remember, in the earlier examples, we said that if this wasn't here, ignore the 2, we would have 5g. We know that that means multiplication, right? A coefficient next to a variable, right, side by side, would be to multiply. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow those parentheses and isolate the 4 squared. Okay, because it is that square, that 2 belongs to this 4. So we have to keep that together somehow. So we're going to keep the 5 just as it is. We're not changing that. We're going to insert the 4 and give the square to it. But we're going to do that with parentheses, just so we can make sure that we have that all separated. And again, this just means multiplication. But think about PEMDAS now. This is really where you have to start to pay attention to it, because this guy is called an exponent. We don't have parentheses, but E stands for exponent, and we have to go in that order. Maybe some of you brought home the little study tool we made, the little slide. That would really help. If you don't have it and you want to make one at home, message me. I will send you my template for that, and you can just print it out, cut it out, and have that right by your workspace. That would really help to remember. We have to take care of this first. Now, this is not 4 times 2. I'm going to put this above. This is 4 times itself. Or I was going to use a dot because sometimes in the upper level you use dots, but let's use parentheses. This is 4 times itself, 4 times 4. So inside now becomes a 16. 4 squared is 16. So this changes to 5 times 16, which now we have to solve that, right? So again, if you need to go over to the side of your board, your workspace, you should do that. I always do to check myself, even though sometimes they're simple in my head. We can easily make mistakes. So always write it down. We have a 30. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 is 80. My final answer on number 11 would be 5 times 16 is 80. Okay? Stepping it up a little bit more. I know that y equals 2. I have to, though, isolate that 2 with the squared. So that 2 squared, we're going to put it in, but we're going to put that in parentheses to make sure we take care of the right part first, okay? We keep the 4 because they gave us a 4. The y is 2, but remember that little guy goes with it. That squared goes with it. They want to stay together. And then our minus 2. So you guys are essentially just plugging in, again, that value that they give into the right spot and then solving, okay? Now again, PEMDAS means that exponents first. So 2 squared is 2 times 2, right? 2 times 2 is 4. So we're going to change this out to a 4, keeping everything else the same. Keep your 4. We know 2 squared is 4, and I'm minusing 2. I'm going to step over here so you guys can see a little bit better. Now we just have to break this down a little further. The next thing with PEMDAS, it would be multiplication and then subtraction. So we want to do this first. So 4 times 4 changes to 16 minus 2. I'm running out of room here. I'm sorry. 16 minus 2 is a final answer of 14. I'm kind of going this way with it, but I know if I had more space, I would go down so you could see the steps that way. I'll write a little smaller so we can make sure we fit them. Final answer again of 14 on that one. For number 13, 2m squared plus 8 when m equals 6. I'm going to take that m and get that 6 in there, And I'm going to make sure that 6 is going with the squared because that belongs to him. Okay, we're keeping everything else the same. So this is going to be 2. Whoops. 2. I have a 6 for m, which is getting squared. You can see that right here. And I'm adding 8. Okay, now we just take it to the next step. Remember, PEMDAS says no parentheses, so exponents is next. 6 squared is not 6 times 2, it's 6 times 6. That's usually the trickiest part about exponents. Everybody wants to multiply by that little number, but it's that number that number times itself that many times. So 6 times 6 is 36. We're going to keep the 2. We just said that the 6 squared changes to 36. And I'm going to add on an 8. All right, so now you might, again, have to go over to the side if you're not sure of 36 times 2. So why not, right? Just to check it. Or 36 plus 36, either way. We get a 72. So this whole thing will now change. This will change to the 72 plus our 8 for a final answer of 72 plus 8. 80. I feel like we had it. Yep. I was going to say, I feel like we had another 80. I made these up, so I didn't mean to do that. 2 80s. All right. Number 14, evaluate 8c squared minus 2. Same thing we have been doing. I want to take that 3, put it right in there for the c, and I'm going to keep it squared because that goes with that. So I have an 8. I'm substituting the 3 in for the c. And again, that 3 is getting squared. And also, again, those parentheses are important because we don't want that to look like 83 squared. I would never do that to you. You would be multiplying 83. I don't think you want to do 83 times 83. So you would know that you did something incorrect if that reads that way. Get those parentheses in there to keep that isolated. And then don't forget the 2 that they had on the original problem. All right, so we have to take care of exponents first. I'm going to leave the 8. 3 squared, again, is not 3 times 2 is 6. 3 squared is 3 times itself, 3 times 3. So that's going to give me a 9 minus the 2 that I had. I'm going to multiply that because that's the next step in PEMDAS, 72. And I'm minusing 2 for a grand total of 70. Just 2 more, you guys. You're doing great. Hang in there. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now this one has a double variable, okay? But they're telling us that y equals 2 and x is 9. So we just have to plug that in. And the y is getting squared, so we want to isolate him, okay? So I'm going to rewrite it. We've got our 10. I'm plugging in a 2 for y. That 2 is getting squared. And then I'm adding, just watch your signs when you copy. I almost wrote minus because we did a bunch of those. We are adding x. The value that they gave us for x was a 9. So I'm putting plus 9 there. All right. Now this one I have space to go this way. So we're going to keep that 10. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. 10 times 4 is 40, plus the 9 for a grand total of 49. All right, now my challenge people out there, if you are planning on doing the challenge levels this week for this topic, which is great. Again, make sure you feel confident enough to do that. Some of you like to try both just to see where you score higher. And as you know, I take the higher grade, so the other one gets exempted. So you'll see that in gradebook. Just going to erase a bit to show you this one. Number 16 up here. You guys who are in that challenge mode are going to get some cubes, okay? We haven't done a ton of these, and they were tricky for most people, so I'll show you how to do one of those in case you are somebody that wants to do the challenge for these assignments this week. So this says 6x cubed, or to the third power, however you'd like to say it, and they're telling us that x is equal to 3. You're doing the same process, it's just that we have to remember what to do with the cube up there, the 3. So we're going to substitute in. That x is 3. We have to separate that so it doesn't look like 63, remember. So we're keeping that together because this guy goes with that little 3. here's the tricky part. A lot of people will say 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now be careful, because what this really means right here is 3 times 3 times 3. You're taking 3 times and multiplying it. So we can do that first, and then we'll deal with the 6. Okay, so 3 times 3 gives us 9, right? But then I have to do the 9 times 3, which gets me to 27. So again, that was 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is then 27. Okay, so you see the difference there with being really cautious. All right, now we just do the 6 times the 27 that we got over there, and that'll give us our final answer. So again, go to the side just to be sure. We get a 42. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. My grand total on this last problem is 162. All right, so that is it for this week. There'll be 2 math assignments for you all uploaded on Monday. Everything, all assignments, science, math will be uploaded on Monday. You will have up until Sunday to do them. And occasionally I'll check in and see how you're doing. There'll be a Zoom meeting for anybody who has questions about midweek, usually Wednesdays or Thursdays. Again, same protocol with A and B forms. You do not have to do them both. You'll see on B, I'm going to start putting optional up there because some parents have asked about that. You get to choose. If you read the directions carefully when you go in, it does say to choose one, but if you're bypassing that, you might not have caught that. Just remember that the B is a challenge level. If you're not feeling secure or not feeling like you can do it, don't just stick with the A, okay? And then certainly if you have any questions, just message me, all right? So yeah, that is it. We did a ton of examples. The 2 assignments you'll get this week will be just a ton of practice with algebraic expressions, because this is a really, really, really important topic going into next year and in the years coming up for you all, okay? I think you'll enjoy this one, like I said, much more than writing out the word phrases because you actually get to solve it. So just take your time. And one caution is some people are kind of waiting until like the weekend days to try to do these things, and it's the assignments kind of are building up. I'm giving you the time spread out to do that, so I really encourage you to get in there and start, if you can, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a little bit each day. Get in there and get them done. They're not going to be very long, about 10 questions each. And just like I said, message me if you have any questions. I didn't get to say, I hope you guys had a really awesome Easter with family. And I know it's a little different this year, probably celebrating Easter, but I do hope it was great. And I would love to hear how your Easter was. So keep those messages coming. I love it when you guys send them. And by the way, I have to say, if you're still hanging on and watching this video, those science projects were amazing. I was so proud of you guys, and it was just incredible to see all the different ways people presented it. I had some hand-drawn, I had some computer-generated, I had some with just all sorts of design features, and they were just incredible. Made my day. So great job on those, everybody. And that's it. All right. You guys have a great night, and you know where I am if you need me, just message. Okay. And I can also Zoom one-to-one, so don't be afraid to ask anytime. I'll set it up when it's convenient for you. Take care.